Hi, I'm Professor Dr. Ashish Davalbhakta. Welcome to my YouTube video today on breast implants. And I'm going to try to educate you all about the various types of implants because we are getting a lot of inquiries for breast augmentation, and all those who are inquiring are completely clueless about the types of implants that are there. So breast implants are made of silicone, which is a completely inert material and doesn't interact with our body tissues at all. So because it's inert, if you put it inside, it stays as it is and there is no interaction between our body and the implant, and the silicone is encapsulated by our body and cocooned by a fibrous capsule. With these characteristics, the breast implants were developed more than 50 years ago, and the earliest implants were made of silicone with a silicone shell. So it's something like this. If you have a look at this is a smooth silicone outer shell with a silicone inside, and the silicone was the implants have gone through various iterations or have evolved with various stages to try to compensate for the problems that we were facing with the various implants. So these earlier silicone implants, they worked really well, and they had a popular demand for those. But what the surgeons used to see is either the silicone leaking from there. So it used to have silicone oil inside earlier, and the silicone oil, if they leaked out, would cause siliconomas. And so they progressed, and the second generation, they started making cohesive silicone gel. So the gel silicone is not in oil form but in a sticky jelly kind of form. So even if you cut this implant, you'll find that they'll stay as two halves with the silicone being retained inside and not leaking. That was a development that they had. The other thing that they saw with these smooth silicone implants in those days was a high incidence of capsular contracture. So as I mentioned, that the body lays down a scar tissue around, which is called a fibrous capsule, and it cocoons this implant in an envelope of fibrous scar, and that capsule used to contract. There were some patients, especially the blonde hair, Caucasians, red-haired people, who had a higher incidence of the capsule contracting, and if it contracted, it would become hard, and it would make the breast hard, and it would also, if it advanced, it would distort the implant and hence the breast as well when it contracted. So the researchers, plastic surgeons, they tried to find out what's the cause of this, and some research done in the UK by Professor Sharp showed evidence that if the implant is made textured, if its surface is made textured, then the fibroblasts, which are making the fibrous capsule, they cannot contract that well. And that's when these textured implants came in and became fairly popular. So these were kind of a rough surface. If you see these, there is a very fine rough surface on the top, and this reduced the incidence of capsular contracture from 40% to 5% or even less. Along with that, there were developments in the shell, and the incidence of leaking were reduced even with that, and of course the life of the implants also improved. So they also discovered that when they made cohesive silicone gel, they were able to make or change the shape of the implant. So this is a hemispherical implant, and if you see, it's actually a round disc and a hemisphere. So these were the round implants, and then they started developing what is called as the anatomical implants. So if you see these have a teardrop shape. Another word for this is the teardrop implants. They were also called as gummy bear implants. So if you see that they have a tapering top surface and a little fuller lounge. So these were meant to mimic the shape of the breast in standing position. So these became fairly popular, and the Magan implants, 410s and others were of this type. Again with a textured surface, cohesive silicone gel inside, but you could change the dimensions of the implants depending upon your body structure. So tall women would have a taller implant, shorter women would have a shorter implant with a wider base. So that came the anatomical. So depending upon your body shape, these implants were designed like that. And obviously these were more expensive because of this particular characteristic. What happened after that is the discovery that if you place the round implant in a subpectoral or dual plane pocket, which is underneath the chest muscle, then the chest muscle, which goes on like this, it flattens the implant and it does make the implant resemble an anatomical implant, and the need for expensive anatomical implant is obviated, or you can do away with a more expensive anatomical instead and put a round implant in the subpectoral pocket. So this is the advantage of placing it in the dual plane. But if you are not placing it in the dual plane and you are relatively skinny, don't have enough breast tissue, then I would still recommend a anatomical or a teardrop shaped implant in the subfascial or the subglandular pocket. Then over time, it was discovered that there is a tiny probability of developing a implant related lymphoma in the capsule, which is called as ALCL, and that incidence is very minor. It's like 0.013%, and it was hypothesized that it was probably because of the textured surface, and hence from the macro textured we came to something like this micro textured implants. So it has the ability to restrict the capsular contracture because there are micro textures, and it also doesn't irritate the capsule too much to incite a lymphocytic response. So these are the types of implants that are currently available, and state of the art is either a smooth implant, which is like this, a cohesive gel, and a micro textured implants. Usually more popular is a round implant, but we will talk about the benefits of a round implant and an anatomical implant in another video. But for this, where we are talking about the types of implants, so that you are not confused in selecting what type of implant you should go for, I think this should be enough for today. So thank you very much for watching this, and if you found it interesting, do like and share. Thank you.